powerful note of we are winning, how appropriate to bring up the Reverend Edward Pinkney. He is the founder of the Black Autonomy Network Community Organization. BANCO is a political and social justice coalition, which is a political and social justice coalition working in Benton Harbor, Michigan, U.S., which was founded to protest the June 16, 2003 death of a 28-year-old African-American Terrence Shern while being pursued by Benton Township's police. Pinkney was sentenced to 30 to 120 months in prison for forging a successful recall petition against Mayor James Hightower. He maintains his innocence in the face of a conviction based on flimsy evidence. Reverend Pinkney, woo!
All right.
Woo!
Recall, 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 recall. That's what it's all about. The struggle that has taken place in the recent years in Benton Harbor is a case in point, one that holds a numerous lesson for the American people. The fight in Benton Harbor is a war. This is no conflict. This is the real deal. This is whether Black people will have prosperity, democracy, or live in poverty under the heels of open corporate rule. The attack on democracy in Benton Harbor shows that the corporate power structure is determined to crush anyone who stands in its way. The problem is my Black brothers and sisters has been robbed of themselves. When white folks can't defeat you, they will always find a Black person, a Sambo, a snowball, a bootlicker, a butt kisser, a buck dancing person they can trot out in front of you. We'll put a person in office and they'll pull them over to their side of the fence. And this has been going on and on and on and on, and nobody says a mumbling word because they think it's better to be with white folks than Black folks. They think that white folks is superior to Black folks, and we're going to keep our foot on your neck. But let me tell you this quick story, how all this came about. We had Public Act 4, which is the Emergency Manager Act. Public Act 4 means that the elected officials has no power. They can't even vote on anything. They can't vote on anything. Only thing they can say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then they have to go and end the meeting. They had no power. They had no say. Matter of fact, the citizens of Benton Harbor had no representation at that time. They called me and asked me to come to Detroit, the Central Methodist Church, where we had over 1,000 people in this building. And what we was going to do, we were going to repeal the Public Act 4. We needed 175,000 signatures. We went out and got 250,000 signatures because we was organized. Organized, organized, organized. Then we had what we call fair wage, $15. We wanted to put it on the ballot. We went out and got 300,000 signatures on a petition, the state of Michigan. Pinkney didn't do it by himself. I was just part of it, and we was the one orchestrated. The women's right to their own body was put on the ballot last November. We went out and got over 300,000 signatures. And the only way that you could be successful at this stuff, you have to mobilize. You have to mobilize. And then you put fear into your opponent. There's not even a better tool than the recall petition of an elected official. Every single person in the United States should have that in their toolbox. But in order to get it done, I'm going to tell you how the process of the recall petition and how it's done. The first tool you need to do is mobilize, organize, and make sure that you have people who's committed to doing what they need to do. That's the most important thing. The people have to be committed to knock on people's doors. If they're not committed, they won't do it. Number two, we must make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do. You got to have the right language on the petition. You have to have something simple. Like in my case, in the city of Benton Harbor, all you need to say is the person voted, what he voted for. Like, for instance, the mayor voted yes to raise the rate of the water. You have to put that on the petition in order to get him recalled, because it's got to be clear. And remember this, they got on the board, they got a judge, they got an election member, and they got the clerk. And all three of them do not support the people. They don't support the people. So you have to be prepared to go in there and deal with that. That's crucial. See, we have to make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do if you're going to do a recall. And one of the things you want to do is make sure that you have the people behind you to make sure it happens, because you're going to have black people against you, you're going to have white people against you, you're going to have the justice system against you, and they will do things to hurt you and make sure the recall do not go through. They're going to do everything in their power to stop you, because now that's an attack on the system. When you do a recall, you're telling them that now you have done something wrong and we're going to remove you. That's what you say. How do they say? It's war. It's not a bloody. It's war without a real fight. But anyway, let me go through some of the things, because I know we don't only have a few times. Usually it takes about 40 minutes, but we're gonna sum it up a little bit to try to get to, so people can understand the importance of the recall. The recall petition language may be submitted for approval during an office holder's first and last 6 months of office. During that period of time, you can't recall anybody, the first 6 months of office. The recall petition may be circulated while an appeal is pending. And here's the thing. They have the option of denying you your right to recall this elected official. You talking about remember this, they got a judge on there, they got the clerk, the county clerk, and they got the election board member. Most of the time, if it's not clear, they can say it's not clear, and you only could do appeal. That's what they talk about now. The recall petition may be circulated, may not be circulated while an appeal is pending unless 40 days have passed since the filing of the appeal. Signed, circulated recall petition may not be filed during the first 6 months or the last 6 months of office. If the term of office is 2 years, you can't do it in the first year. So that's really what that's all about. So you got to make sure that you're doing all the things that you need to do. The first 2 years, if it's only 2 years, you can do it the first 6 months. If it's longer than 2 years, you have to wait a year. The recall petition signature, this is the most important thing. We used to have 180 days to get the amount of signatures we need. Now you only got 60 days. And what I mean by 60 days, if every day after that 60 days, your signature fall off, depends on the date. It's only good for 60 days. So you have to make sure that those signatures is there. This is what they accuse me of, changing the dates on the recall petition. And there was no law that says that you could not do that. There was no law, which I didn't do it, but the point was, and the Supreme Court ruled in my favor, saying that that was not a crime. I spent 30 months in prison, and the Supreme Court said that that was not a child. There is no such thing as forgery on a recall petition. If the signature is no good, the only thing they can do is cross it out. But in my case, they want to send me to prison because they know I'm a force to be reckoned with. I'm going to do whatever I can to help my community, whatever it is, they know that they can count on me. And I'm going to set up and fight. I'm going to fight until the end. And they understand that. But they said, now listen to this. They said that I, the Reverend Edward Pinkney, the one and only, changed the dates on the recall petition, which was not true. But they can get away with it because white folks was involved. They was the people behind all this. They was the one who insinuated it. And they wanted to keep that mayor in, James Hightower. They didn't care about anything else. All they cared about was keeping him in office. Here's the thing, number 2. Let me read this too. Petition language submitted must be approved. By it being approved, it allows you to go out and get signatures. They call it a clarification hearing. It's between 10 and 20 days after the petition language has been submitted. Then you can, they have a clarity hearing, and then they decide whether the language is good or not. That's what they do. And here's the thing. They would do whatever they can to do for the process. The process itself is clear, you see. Only thing you need to know is make sure, the number one thing, that the language on the recall petition is clear. You use the term, he voted yes to raise the waterway. He voted yes to increase your taxes. He voted yes. Anything that he voted yes for or no, it don't make no, even if he voted no, so you can also use that. That's clarification. Also, it can be verified. So that's how we get them, you see. And these are professional people that you're dealing with. These are not, they know how to stop people, especially discourage people just by attacking them. But the recall is so powerful that it puts the candidate on notice that we're coming, which is crucial. And then it goes on to say, the recall petition, within 2 years, if they did, they can also be recalled, which is very, very valuable information. Petition language is submitted to the county clerk in the county where the officer resides. Before the recall petition may be circulated, petitioners sponsor must be a registered voter. He got to be a registered voter in the electoral district represented by the office. He have to. That's a must. The petition language, reasons for recall, must be submitted on the approved recall petition form. It has to be city township form. This form is used for recall of all candidates. You can recall a judge, but that has to go to the state level. You can recall a state rep. That has to go to the Secretary of State. If you go to any of these guys, can be recalled, especially judge. We attempted to recall a judge by the name of Paul Maloney. We went after him, and we set through several of those recall efforts by him for him. But we wanted to make sure that we was able to do it more than anything else. And that kind of like put fear in them because we were willing to go after judges. You see, most people don't go after judges, but we went after him, and we knew that we could get him if we took the time out and do what needed to be done. So that was important. Anytime you're dealing with people that you know of, and you know what? Here's the thing I want to say. Our Black brothers and sisters, as much hell as we've been through, and yet and still, they're willing to side with the white folks on something that would help us Black folks. I got a problem with that. I got a major problem with anyone willing to sell out my brothers and all the hell we've been through. You know, we've been traumatized. And yet and still, we got people willing to sell their soul to the devil, to the evil empire, and get away with it. We cannot accept that. We cannot accept that. There's not a reason in this world something like this should happen. And there's much hell in the city of Benton Harbor. You know what? We only had one good elected official. That was Etta Hopper. She was like Charles Burrow on them. She was out there. She died, you know, but she was the best we ever had. You have to be committed to the community. You cannot allow them to continue. That's why you have to learn the process of a recall petition. It's a process, and it's basic. It's not nothing difficult, but you better have yourself organized so you can mobilize. You need to have protesters. You need to do all these things and make sure that you have meetings so you can count the number of signatures you need. You have to know how many signatures you need before you can do this recall. You got to know that. That's crucial. That's what you need to know, because if you let's say you have 30 people, each one of them can get 75 to 100 signatures, you will be successful. That's all. Knock on people's doors, knock on their door, and ask them to sign the petition. But tell them why. Explain to them why you're recalling this person, and make sure what you say is truthful. You don't have to exaggerate. All you have to do is just lay it right on the line. That's a recall. You're recalling because he raised the water rates. You're recalling him because he raised your taxes. These are things that you want to utilize. These are the way things are supposed to be done. You see, and it's not difficult. That's, if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's right. So this is what I say to you. We had one case where we recalled this guy named Glenn Yarborough. Now, he was the big honcho. He got the largest family in the city of Benton Harbor, the largest family. They thought it was going to be impossible to recall him. They thought it was. They said that it'll never happen. Matter of fact, they were so sure of themselves, they didn't even talk about it or want to do anything because they knew it wasn't going to happen. We used the absentee ballot on them. We went out and used the absentee ballot and got him. The news media, the first thing they say, either Pinkney is a crook or he's the smartest person to ever live, because I knew what we had to do. I know my black brothers and sisters don't like going to the polls. So we used the absentee ballot on them and was successful. But here's what happened. We got him, put him in position. Judge Paul Maloney, that's why we were going to recall Maloney, because he took his time after we had recalled him successfully, put him right back in the seat. And he said the reason why he put him back in the seat is because Reverend Edward Pinkney was involved in this election. Something had to go wrong. He had to do something wrong. We don't know what, but he had to do something wrong. So they came up with this idea that I was in possession of an absentee ballot. First, I didn't change it, I didn't alter it or anything. They said I was in possession of this absentee ballot. This is how powerful the recall is. When you're doing the recall of an elected official, you have all the power. You're in control. The most important thing, get the amount of signatures that you need, because they're going to cross out a lot of them. And they won't be charged with forgery, because there's no such thing as forgery on a recall petition. No, you can do whatever you need to do to make sure it's done. So remember this. This is important. Make sure you mobilize. Get your group together. Whether you're in a small city or large city, you have your at least 30 people out there. Make sure you know the amount of signatures you need in order to recall him. And even this is important. Remember, you only have 60 days. 60 days to get whatever amount of signatures you need. That's the Pinkney law that they changed to now. Now they're trying to make it a little bit more difficult for the people to do a recall. But the recall is simple. Everybody should have that recall in their toolbox. You should be able, and remember, every state is different. So whatever state that you live in, you have to check and find out what you need to do to have the recall to be successful. You have to go beyond the call of duty to make sure and be aware that the sheriff's department is working with whoever you're trying to recall. They're working against you. They're making sure that if possible, that the recall do not go through. Matter of fact, with the Yarborough situation, they was kicking people doors in, want to know why they signed the petition against him. You see, so that's important. If they think for a second that you can be successful, believe me, get yourself prepared, because this is what happened. This is what happened when things like this goes on, and it's going to continue. I wish I had the sent you the slides, but the slide is about 40, 50 minutes. I knew that wouldn't work, and in order to get everything in, it's repetitious of what's going on. But I love it. I love what's going on. I love what we're doing. I'm loving that, the recall is a tool that we need to have in our toolbox, and we got to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done. And anytime that you go out, make sure that you're prepared, because they will do anything to protect that elected official. That's part of what they do. That's what's in their toolbox. So we have to make sure we're ready, and we got to make sure that we're going after the right person. And I think that is important. So I'm going to close on this. I'm going to say that, my Black brothers and sisters, I understand that you've been robbed of yourself. You don't know who you are right now, but we're going to help you. We want you to listen to Black is Back. We want you to listen to O'Malley Yesateli. You see, one thing about what has happened when they raided the office, they thought that O'Malley Yesateli would never come back. They thought that they had buried him. See, when you bury somebody, you don't expect them to come back. But they didn't realize they only planted him. When you plant somebody, you expect them to rise again. And Chairman O'Malley, you have risen. Risen. It is done. Recall, recall, recall. That's it.